cheese bags, and welcome into the H&M Trucking Podcast, episode 41. New year, same me. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. Emo Marcus might come back around the bend at some point in time to visit us, but for now, he's on vacation, enjoying the holidays with his family, and I hope that everyone out there had a safe and happy new year. Did a little bit of celebrating, got to spend some time around the family, maybe ate some good food. That's what I'm all about, man. I cooked up so many good little appetizers. I did meatballs. I'm talking like puff pastry with onions and cheese. I did all sorts of crazy stuff, and I did it all on the cheap, which I was really excited about. But I can babble about my time in the kitchen all day long because I really enjoy being in there. And even if whatever I make comes out garbage, like my Christmas cookies, where I tried royal frosting for the first time, you know, people still eat them. It's the holidays. They can't make me feel bad. Come on. I'm desperately seeking everyone's approval. So enjoy my sugar cookies and strap in for this episode because we've got a lot of stuff coming around the bend for you. To start out, we're going to get a new driver in here that hasn't been in here yet today. She's one of our driver ambassadors. Her name is Lisa Bisese, 21 years of experience under her belt. Excited to talk to her. We're also going to talk to Eve coming up pretty quick because it's time for her to lay down the law. It's been a little while since we've done that. So I want to get Eve back in here, and she also has some very important announcements to get to that will help you along the way, and also call out some individuals that have some very cool accomplishments that they've just mastered. So without further ado, episode 41 of the H&M Trucking Podcast is off and rolling. Let's get to it.
From Omaha, Nebraska, to whatever lane you're driving, this is the H&M Trucking Podcast with your host, Marcus Bridges.
Joining me next here on the H&M Trucking Podcast, I've got H&M driver Lisa Bisese making her first appearance here on the podcast. Lisa, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Of course. Where are you at right now, and where are you headed?
I am coming into Omaha. I'm going to be here for a couple days.
Okay. Are you going to invade the front office and go in and see everybody in there, give them a little bit of guff, or are you just going to spend some home time, or what are you up to?
Yeah, I'm here to get some permits done, and then I have to have some medical stuff taken care of. And oh yes, I will go over and ruffle their feathers a little bit, especially Terry.
Good for you, and ruffle them for me too. Just while if you have the extra time, okay?
No problem, I can do that.
So, have you been dealing with much inclement weather out there? I ask because I made a pilgrimage across the state of Oregon here just this last week, of course, for the holidays, and it was just a little bit of snow on the ground, a little bit of ice. It got pretty cold, but I assume out there in the Midwest and on I-80 going through Wyoming and such, the weather's getting pretty bad. How have your trips been recently, Lisa?
I just come off the East Coast out of Pennsylvania, and I dealt with some rain over there, but I stayed the night last night at the Iowa 80 there in Walcott, Iowa, and when I left out of there this morning heading west, I was dealing with a wintry mix. It wasn't causing any problems, though, so far I've been pretty lucky.
That's good. I'm really glad to hear that. I have heard that it's a little unseasonably warm in certain spots. I talked to somebody on the podcast team here. It was like 60 degrees in southern Ohio, and I talked to my editor out of Syracuse, New York, and it was mid-50s and sunny, maybe a little bit of rain. It's kind of like providing a little bit of a head scratcher at this time of year. Are you finding it to be a little bit unseasonably warm in the places you've been?
Very unseasonably warm. It's a big difference between Christmas this year and Christmas last year when we were, most of the country was in that sub-zero tundra that we were in last year for the Christmas holidays. It was pretty nasty last year, but this year it's been pretty warm.
How long have you been driving, Lisa?
Oh, I have been driving for 21 years.
So you've got a lot of experience under your belt. Is there a year that sticks out to you where it was the absolute worst as far as the winter weather is concerned?
I would have to say, gosh, I I can remember the conversation I had with Brian at H&M about it. But I can't remember the year. Dadgummit, it's only been, we had that pineapple thing that was over the U.S. and it wouldn't quit snowing. It just wouldn't warm up. And I think it's been maybe 3 winters ago, 4 winters ago. Oh, it was just terrible because I was begging him, please send me somewhere where it's warmer. I just can't take no more. It won't end.
And did he accommodate you, or was he able to, or did you have to go out there and brave it?
I think they did accommodate me. They're pretty good about it. You know, I don't usually complain about where I go or anything like that. I just run my loads, and sometimes I'm like, hey, look, you know, can we go somewhere else? And they're usually pretty good about accommodating that.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. And you're not the first person to tell me that. I know that that they can put you out there in a place where you'd rather drive if there's some places that you'd like to avoid. Are there, on that note, any places in the U.S. that you kind of try to stay away from?
No, I go pretty well wherever they send me. I don't tell them I'm not going to go here, there, the third. I would prefer not to run the Northeast, but I don't complain when they do because it's not something that I do all the time over here. I've been here since 2016. I left for a 6-month period a couple of years ago, almost 3 years ago. I've just never, with this company, ran very much over there. It seems to be a little more in the recent years, but I don't really complain to them about it. I just do it. I don't really like it, but I'll do it.
I hear you there. That sounds like me with yard work or really anything around the house. I don't really like it, but I'll do it, you know? So
absolutely.
Is that, you know, up there in the Northeast, obviously there's a lot more population density, a lot more metropolitan area. Is that kind of what you don't like to drive in, or is it weather related? If you had to pick something that wasn't your favorite about the Northeast?
It's the high volume of traffic that really kind of bothers me. Mm-hmm. When I started driving truck, when I was with my trainer, I know John F. Kennedy Airport like the back of my hand. That's where we ran. And so I kind of got thrown into that very early on, the whole New York City Bronx, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Really early on in my career. And it's just the magnitude of people that are in a hurry to go absolutely nowhere.
Right, hurry up and away.
And they live there and they know the 2 right lanes closed, but they're going to take it out to the last second, you know, and it just further slows the progression of things down, you know,
sure,
of us moving along. And that's probably my biggest thing. And you have to be very careful up in the Northeast because trucks aren't allowed in certain places, and you have low bridges and weight restrictions, and you just have to be very, very careful up there. And it can be sometimes very tedious for a brand new driver.
Oh, I bet. I mean, I can't imagine John F. Kennedy Airport for somebody that's been driving for 20 years in a Honda Civic, let alone what you're trucking. So that's something that I don't, you know, I always say on the show, I really tip my cap to you guys because there's places I wouldn't take my four-wheeler if you paid me to, and you guys are up there in these huge trucks with full loads, dealing with idiots all over the road. Is it worse as far as the idiots are concerned? Do you think it's worse because of like the attitude of the Northeast, or do you think it's just because of that population, like you mentioned? There's just so many more people.
Well, there's a lot of people, and I just think that, I don't know, I've seen a big change and shift in everybody's hurrying attitude over the last 5 or 6 years. Mm. And just driving in general all over has gotten a lot worse out here. Everybody is in just such a hurry and has to be first, and they'll darn near hurt themselves or don't care if they do someone else to be there. Mm-hmm. And it's scary. And I think it's just this rush, hurry mentality that everybody has. And it's just, I think that's just that with the population up there is just so many people. I can't even begin to wrap my mind around how much time they spend in their vehicle every day to and from work.
And that's saying something for your occupation. You can't wrap your mind around it. What do they think? I mean, it totally makes sense. And, I was just on I-5 a couple days ago, and there was a guy. It's funny. I already mentioned a Honda Civic. That's why it was fresh in my mind. He was in a Honda Civic, and he was diving in. It was only 2 lanes there on that portion of the freeway, and he was jumping into the right lane and passing a couple people, and then jamming it back in not enough room to jam it back in. And it got to the point where he was doing that for so long that he was far off in the distance, and I couldn't even see him. And when I eventually took my exit and got into town, I pulled up right next to him at the stoplight. And making those dangerous maneuvers and putting all those people in jeopardy, including trucks. There was a bunch of trucks that he cut off and was way up, tailgating them and everything like that. It just was like, I wish that he would have recognized my face and known that all that he did provided him literally nothing. We got to the same place at the same time.
I chuckle about that all the time. It's like, your blood pressure is sky high because you were doing all that. Look, you're behind me at the stoplight now. Right. It's so funny to me. That really is.
And when people drive like that, I feel like they're, you remember the chance cards in Monopoly? It's like, yeah, you might get there quicker. You might also cause a 40-car pileup, and you don't really have control of that, especially if you're not a very good driver. So, I guess maybe I'll take this opportunity to just tell everybody that's listening, stay safe, nice, loose, relaxed grip on the steering wheel. Keep that stress level down a little bit while out there on the road. But you know what? Enough of the negative, Lisa. We've been talking about idiots for long enough now. Where's your favorite place to drive in the United States?
My favorite place to drive would happen to be upstate California, up the I-5 corridor through Oregon. It is just the most beautiful country to me. I think that's why I appreciate it the most. And that was from early on in my career, and even the times I've been there since. To me, during the summer, just driving up the I-5 corridor up there through Mount Shasta and up through Oregon, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. And you drive through like these tunnels of trees over the interstate in certain areas. And it's just beautiful.
Well, I'm going to take your word for it and not think that you're just saying that because I'm a born and bred Oregon boy. But I will also say, you're the first driver to ever say California is one of their favorites. That is one that falls to the bottom of the list for a lot of people with all the red tape and chips out there trying to pull you over whenever they can. So I'm glad that you've had good experiences in California. And I think that if there's anything I can say about my drives through that area, it is just to appreciate the scenery because it's really unlike anywhere else in the United States.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And and upstate California is way different than Los Angeles. It's just way different. You get north of Sacramento, California, and it's just a different world up there. And the scenery is different, and it's very beautiful up there.
Well, I agree, and a lot of times I think I'm biased because I've spent my whole life here, but I'm always glad to hear somebody say that they enjoy driving through Oregon because I like to think that it's one of these kind of hidden gems. Not a lot of people get out here. I've talked to many drivers who've never even, crossed the state lines into Oregon, and I tell them, pick up a load, man. Come up and see me. I'll get you a cup of coffee on the way if you got time to stop. So I'm really glad to hear that. Now, there was something else I wanted to ask you that I totally ran by, but you've been driving for 21 years, and we talked about some changes in the attitude in the Northeast over the last few years, and people are rushing a lot more. What are some other things over the course of your 21-year career now, Lisa, that have changed, whether it be for the better or the worse?
Yeah, I think it's more for kind of the worse because we have such a younger generation of drivers coming into these trucks, and they grew up differently than us older drivers, us seasoned older drivers. And I don't know, they're just so preoccupied, and they were raised in a generation that was more self-centered, and it seems like there's just a lack of for each other and camaraderie that used to be. It's just kind of like every man for themselves out here now, and that hurry mentality is a big part of that generation,
Sure.
that young generation.
Yeah.
And I think electronics is a big problem with it. And you see so many people on their phones and doing things that they shouldn't be, and I think that's the biggest change. And I think it's been for the negative.
Yeah.
Well, I do have a positive.
Yeah, I love it.
There's still H&M Trucking. There's not a lot of companies out here like H&M Trucking. I don't know of any others. As far as the way they treat their drivers and treat you like you're a name and a family and a human being instead of just a truck number. So there is that positive.
That's great. And I believe there will still be H&M Trucking long into the future because that's how they treat their employees. You guys stick around, and rightfully so. I mean, once if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
I know that's right.
I wonder too, when you talk about the new generation of truckers coming in and there's not that camaraderie amongst them that there used to be. Do you think that ties into kind of the waning of CB culture? When I was young and I used to hang out at the sawmill that my dad managed, there was always chatter on the CB, and he had one in his truck, and I could sit in the cab of the truck all day long and change the channels on that CB, and I could listen to drivers talk about any number of things. And probably one of the reasons I am the way I am is because I heard some things that I probably shouldn't have heard as a young child. But I do notice that there's less and less chatter on the CB these days. Do you think that kind of, lends itself to the camaraderie of trucking kind of going away and everybody kind of being out there for themselves and their phone?
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, I think the phone and Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all these other chattering platforms have just, and with this newer generation that's coming in, that's what's so important to them. Updating their status, updating this, seeing who's eating what and how pretty of a picture they took in the restaurant. And I think it kind of disconnects them from what they're really doing in the community that is actually around them. And that's why they don't have CBs. I don't even think they know what a CB is, some of them, and it's like they could save your life. It is very nice to have one. I keep mine on. I don't talk on it unless I'm telling, hey, we're hitting our brakes real hard. We need to slow down and we're here. But other than that, some of the things that you hear on it are nothing like what some of the things that I heard on it, 20 years ago. People are just so angry anymore. The slightest things that people say can hurt so many people's feelings, and then you get into this big war of words back and forth, and they've never met and they don't know each other, and but they're gonna duke it out on the CV.
Have you ever heard any of them challenge the other one to meet them somewhere so that they can take it out the old school way with their fists in a parking lot or anything like that?
Yeah, I've heard that a time or two. I think the recipient might have got a little quiet.
Yeah, it's easy to talk a big game until somebody tells you, hey, meet me at Iowa 80, and you think, I'm not going anywhere near that place for at least a week.
Exactly. And I think another problem with the CB is, and I'm almost 50, and I have a very, I don't know, I guess you would want to call it strange, kind of maybe twisted, demented personality. And so things that I think funny, others might not think is so funny. And so I think that's a big part of what clashes on there. Some of us older people think some things are funny that some of these young people don't think it's so funny.
Sure.
Or they might take offense to it. So it's just it turns into this angry feud.
Sure. Which is just a waste of your breath. I mean, you know what? As far as things that are funny are really concerned, I don't think there's ever going to be a guideline for what is funny and what's not. Appropriate, maybe. But the CB is not the place to take your appropriate jokes and try to fling them out into the masses. The CB is kind of a place where you get to be an anonymous person and try some of that material out on whoever might be listening, right?
Exactly. There you go. See if you'll make it big time as a comedian.
It sounds like I need to get a CB mounted here on my desk just so I can chat with whoever's driving by.
That would be pretty cool.
It actually would.
Pretty cool.
It actually would be. I'm gonna talk to boss about that. You know what? I don't need a new microphone. Just give me a nice, big, powerful CB. And that's what I'll moonlight as a CB comedian. You'll probably hear about me next time you come up through Oregon. There probably will be a whole bevy of pissed off people, to be honest with you, but that's okay, you know?
That's okay. That's all right. They'll be okay. I tell them when they get angry, it'll be all right in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Sleep it off. Have a cup of coffee and chill out.
Yep, exactly.
Do you travel with any animals, Lisa?
I do. I have 2 dogs.
And what are their names?
I have Axel and I have Dax, D-A-X.
Oh, I love them. And what kind of dogs?
Axel is a Schnauzer and Dax is a Yorkie.
Oh, that's awesome. So are they, do they kind of run the cab of the truck, or are they just along for the ride and happy to hang out in the sleeper? What's the situation with Dax and Axel?
Well, Axel's almost 5 and Dax is a year old, and Axel is just that I'm going to take a siesta type of, little dog, and you just chill over there in the passenger seat. Dax, when we brought him on board, he uproared this whole truck, and he is in large and in charge, even though he's only about 5.5 pounds. And so he has definitely disrupted the flow of things.
That's great. I can relate. I'm only 5'9", but I talk a much bigger game, so I get that whole short man's complex thing.
That's what I tell him. He's got a little dog complex.
That's awesome, Lisa. Well, listen, you have agreed to be one of our driver ambassadors here on the H&M Trucking podcast, and I really want to thank you for that. What that means, basically, for those of you wondering out there listening to the podcast right now, is just that Lisa has agreed to come on the podcast, whenever we need her, if it works out with her schedule. And we've got a whole list of drivers here that are willing to do that. And so I just wanted to take one quick minute and tell any drivers that are listening to this podcast, if you're interested in becoming a driver ambassador, get a hold of Sherry Vogler over there at the home office, and she can definitely put you on our list. I really appreciate your willingness to come on here and chat with me about things. And I wanted to ask you, what would you prefer to hear on the podcast, Lisa? What type of things can we talk about, or what kind of topics can we address that would really make the best use of your windshield time if you were listening?
Oh, that's a tough one. That is so tough. I am the type of person that I like to understand everything. And I know I'm not in the office at H&M Trucking, and I'm not on the logistical side of things. And sometimes things just don't make sense to us drivers. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty fortunate that if I prod with the right questions, my dispatcher will help me understand things. He has a time or two. So I think what maybe I would like to hear is more about the whys. Why this kind of freight? Why this area? Because I know it's an ever-changing industry, and it's a financial move, and I understand that. But maybe some more of the whys from Mr. Fonda, or people from the customer service department that are, trying to find new customers, or the load planners as to why they booked a load that was so crazy that it didn't make sense and it was a failure before you ever picked it up.
Okay. All right. I can get that. And while I have you here, before I let you go, is there anything that you'd like to say to your dispatcher? I guess, first of all, who is your dispatcher? And then is there anything you would like to say to them while we have you?
Terry Michelson is my dispatcher. He has been my entire time here. Terry and I, we have a pretty good bond. I don't want to really call it a friendship. We're close. We can talk to one another. He's always been there through the tough times that I've went through with my family and different things that have happened in life. And I know I can always count on him to talk to him. He's just a really good guy. Sometimes I think he hears and doesn't listen, but I think we can all be guilty of that. But he's just a really cool guy, and he's understanding because he used to drive, and that's also helpful. And just he's honest with me. He doesn't shoot me crap, and I treat him the same way. And good dispatcher. I wouldn't have. There's only one other dispatcher up there. I tell him all the time, you can't quit because I'll leave. You can't quit. I will leave. And then now there's one other dispatcher over here. She's really cool, and we click and we get along. And so I can probably deal with her if he decides he's ever had enough, or if H&M's ever decided they've had enough of him.
Well, we'll do our best to make sure that Terry hears this. And not only that, but I would love to get you on here with Terry sometime so we can dig into that bond a little bit and listen to your guys back and forth. Because as one thing over the life of this podcast I've discovered, Lisa, is that dispatchers and drivers have a real brother and sister type relationship. They can say just about anything to each other, and it's not going to make anybody butthurt or anything like that. You guys really understand the trials and tribulations that you both go through trying to do your job.
Funny story about that. James Fonda called me one time. Me and Terry had a little bitter spat with each other. He said what he had to say. I said what I had to say, and we let it go. The next day, Terry happened to be gone, and James Fonda called me. I don't even remember about what, but it wasn't about the disagreement me and him had. He goes, so I hear you need a new dispatcher. And I'm like, why would I need a new dispatcher? He goes, well, I hear you guys were having a little trouble. I said, and we're adults. We got over it. We moved on. We're not holding grudges here. And that's important, to respectfully say what you have to say and listen, whether you agree or disagree, and then just be adults and accept it and move on. And Terry's very good at that. Well,
that's sound advice for every portion of life, work and beyond. It just listen, understand, be an adult, and try to not hold a grudge. And I'm sure that was marked in the win column for James, because you pretty much saved some work there, right? You didn't have to go out and find a new dispatcher. And if he's calling you, chances are it's already gone to that point where he feels like he's got to get involved. So glad to hear that one was smoothed out before it ever got rough.
Oh yeah, me and Terry, I've had a couple times where Terry never did anything wrong, and I kind of was a little grumpy someday, and I'm very self-aware, I'm very hard on myself, and I'll call him the next day and I apologize. He's like, I knew something was wrong, and that's just the kind of relationship that we have, though. So, and I'm so thankful for that, because I've never in my career till H&M had a relationship with a dispatcher in that manner. It's always been, you're just a kind of a nobody, and that's not what you are over here. Your thoughts matter over here, and your difficulties and your trials and tribulations in life, they matter over here. And that's one of the many things that sets H&M way above everybody else that I've ever drove for. So,
well, that's great. And when you build those special bonds with people, they just know when you're having a bad day. My wife, she'll just walk in and hand me like a powdered sugar donut and a Monster and just walk away. And then all of a sudden I'll be, back to my normal jovial self again. All I was angry. That happens to the best of us. So I'm glad to hear that Terry's able to have that type of relationship with you and you with him. And also super happy to hear how happy you are working for H&M, Lisa. Now, I'm up against the clock here, so I've got to let you go, but I do want to give you the floor to say anything to anyone in the company or any of your family that might be listening before we get out of here.
Anybody in the company, just overall, the whole entire company, I hope that you had a wonderful holiday. I hope you stayed safe out here. I hope all the office people, all the back people that we don't get to see every day or talk to hardly ever, I hope you had a wonderful time with your family this year. Best of wishes for 2024.
That's Lisa Bisese, H&M Driver. Thank you so much for being one of our driver ambassadors, Lisa. We'll talk to you very soon, okay?
All right. Thank you very much, Marcus. Have a wonderful day.
Great stuff there from Lisa Bisese. Thank you so much again for being one of our driver ambassadors and sharing your time here with the podcast. Now, something we're going to be doing going forward on the podcast, as we started this last week, is welcoming our new drivers to H&M. And it's important for me to say, any of you new drivers out there, or really any of you old drivers, you could be anyone. If you're interested in being one of these driver ambassadors who wants to come on the podcast, share your time with me, chop it up, chew the fat a little bit, I would love to have you on my list. So just make sure you talk to Sherry Vogler about that, and she will make sure to get you on our list. New drivers today. I've decided I'm bringing them in each with their own round of applause. Let's give it up for Barry Helveston in the van division. Welcome, Barry. Dale Brooks, also from the van division. Welcome to Dale, another van division superstar. We've got Jerome Audane. Welcome, Jerome. And finally, from the Hopper division, checking in, we've got Brett Hembry Muller. Almost like a little bit of a starting lineup feel there. I really like that. We're going to have to maybe bring in some like intro music and introduce new drivers sometime, like they're coming onto the court at an NBA game or something like that. Welcome to all you new drivers. Looking forward to having you as part of the team. Stay safe out there. Keep the shiny side up. And you'll learn later what else I tell you to do. It has something to do with fresh and cheese.
It's time to lay down the law with Eve.
Next up here on episode 41 of the H&M Trucking Podcast, it's been a little while since we've had her on for her normal segment, and I'm very happy to welcome her back. Eve Essary, HR Manager from H&M Trucking. Eve, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Marcus.
How was the holidays, Christmas, New Year, all that good stuff?
It was great. I am super blessed that all of my kids were home for the holidays. They were all home for Christmas. So all 8 of them, plus boyfriends, girlfriends, all of that. So we had a big crowd and all got to spend the holidays together. So I always look forward to that. It's always really special to have them all together.
And did you stay up to watch the ball drop, or were you in bed by 10:30 like me?
So we actually went to a New Year's Eve party with some friends and spent it with some friends and just had a good time and drank some champagne and some drinks and, partied it up.
That's an easy way to stay up till midnight. I mean, if there's champagne and drinks, I'm up until midnight, maybe after. So good. Well, let's get right into it here. We have a very important announcement to make right off the top, and I wanted to get to this first because I feel like this is such an awesome milestone, and every time I hear a driver hit it, it just kind of blows the top off my head. So please, I'll let you do the honors.
Yeah, we have 4 drivers this last quarter, that have hit 1 million miles. And so I'm just really excited to be able to announce that and celebrate them and show them the appreciation for all of that hard work that it takes to be able to do that. So Randy Duran, Tom Jones, Brandon Sulcer, and Roy Allen all hit that 1 million mile mark in the last quarter. So big shout out to those guys. It takes a lot and a lot of dedication to be able to do that.
And a round of digital applause goes their way. Randy Duran, who's been on the podcast multiple times, and all of the rest of those. I don't think we've talked to any of the rest of them on the podcast, but huge congratulations to everybody. 1 million safe miles is not an easy thing to do. You got to think about how many miles you're putting on every day and how many days it takes to get there. It's just crazy. All the things that they deal with out there. You know what? Good luck to them in the future getting that next 1 million miles under their belt, because I know that's what everybody's next goal is. So very cool. Any other announcements that we have to make before we move on?
I have a couple milestone anniversaries as well too. So Mitch Rozonki, he is a load planner here in the office, and he's going to hit 5 years in January. And then we also have Cedric Brantley, who's hitting 10 years on January 6th. So, and he's an owner operator, Hopper Division. So big shout out to them as well. And we really appreciate them, both of those guys, everything they do.
Yes, very, very big congratulations. And another part, something that I hadn't talked to you about yet that I'm really excited about is we will be welcoming new drivers each time we have a podcast episode going forward, including in this one. And we also did it in the last one. So that's something that we're going to be doing every single week when we've got new drivers coming on. So hopefully they'll get to hear their names on the podcast right when they jump on board with H&M Trucking. And that helps get them off to a very good start with the company. So, you know, big thanks here on the podcast. Eve, we're starting a whole new year. We're at episode 41. Can you believe that?
I can't. It seems like just yesterday that we started this whole thing. So time has flown, I guess, when you're having fun, right?
I guess so. And I try to have as much as I possibly can, which kind of brings me to my next thing here. We've got a safety campaign to talk about. And as I'm reading through what you sent me in the safety campaign, I wasn't convinced that you didn't have me write some of these because I love the way these are laid out. I'll let you talk a little bit about the safety campaign, and then maybe we'll pick a few of these out and kind of read through what I've been just thoroughly enjoying for the last 30 minutes or so before you came on with me.
You know what, Marcus, some days when I come to work, I never know quite what to expect. And so the day that we decided we were going to do the safety campaign for 2024, we really thought about what do we want it to look like and how do we want to get people involved. And so I started just writing some of these kind of just silly little one-liners, really just like, how can we get people involved? And I just sat here at my desk just cackling to myself for like 3 hours as I wrote these things for the rest of the year. And once they started flowing, it just kind of went, right?
Yep.
And so people are walking by my office like, what is happening in there? And I just had the best day. It was literally the best day I've had here for a while, just because I got to do this.
That's awesome.
To say that, we also, part of this is that we pick a topic every month and then focus on that topic for the month. So every Monday, we're going to be sending out basically a little topic of conversation. So January is all based around pre-trips, and it's about making sure we're doing those pre-trips, things that we need to check and stuff like that. So January, week 1. So the announcement was yesterday for this. So hopefully everybody saw it. It's on our social media. It's going to go out as an email, also Samsara message to the drivers. But January, week 1 is not everything has to be flat like Nebraska. Check your tires.
I love the Nebraska jab in there, Eve. As a native Nebraskan, that's got to be fun for you to just take a little bit of solace in that flat joke, right?
Absolutely. And there's a lot of them that are kind of also poking fun at us as well as we're going through this. You'll notice that as well, that I definitely make sure that I poke fun at not just us but everyone else too.
I love it. Now, there's one here that sticks out to me that I have to ask you about, and it's because I didn't quite get it, but that's why you're here, is to help me understand these things. Now, week 1 in March, sleep is precious, and so is the stripper. I totally agree, first off, without any context whatsoever. Totally agree. But you got to explain this one to me, Eve.
Well, as I was writing this, I said I was kind of brainstorming, and as I'm sitting here, and another one of my coworkers came in, and I was like, sleep is precious. I'm kind of thinking in my head, I'm thinking out loud. And they said, Precious is a stripper name. And I said, oh, well, there you go. I get it. So I don't actually know a stripper named Precious, but according to my coworker, there is one. And so we're using it, and we're going to make her famous.
Well, she's probably already famous in her own circle. Let's just put it that way, because I think that to have a stripper name like Precious, you have to have at least a few fans out there. So I'm loving it. Moving forward with some of these, tailgating is for football, not for highways. 100% agree. Again, as somebody who is a lifelong tailgater, somebody is a season ticket holder for football games, I love a good tailgate anywhere but on the highway. And so I love that you put that one in there, because my wife tells me I'm two different people. I'm the guy everywhere in my life, and then I'm the person that I am in the car, and nothing makes me the worst side of that person more than tailgating. Whether it's me or whether I see people now, especially, I find myself, since I've been doing this podcast for as long as I have, getting offended for drivers. When I see somebody tailgating a truck or somebody cut them off, I just kind of explode into like a little mini. It's not a rage, but it's definitely a rant. Like I go off on, I don't know how many times I've yelled at the windshield. You know how long it takes them to stop, and just kind of losing my shit over it. So this is all awesome. The safety campaign, like you said, reset me one more time. When are the drivers going to see this each week?
Every Monday, there's going to be a new message that's sent out. So the first one's actually started on a Tuesday because Monday was New Year's Day. So we started that on Tuesday, and so every week they should be seeing a new message. Some of them are a little funnier than others, some of them are a little snarkier than others, but hopefully they'll all enjoy it and look forward to it coming out. So we'd love to talk about it. Call your dispatcher and let her know what you think. Let them know, if you like them or don't like them. Either way, I'm open to it. But just start the conversation. We need to make safety a culture, and in order to do that, we need to make it a campaign. And so this is what we're starting with this, and then we'll see where it takes us. So I'm really excited about it. We have some really fun graphics and things like that for our social media as well to go with some of these. So you better be ready for that first week of March.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm in for this, Eve. This is awesome. So, and we'll be bringing some of these up, as they pertain to various things that we're talking about on the podcast too, just trying to, stay fresh in the memory. Obviously, we want everything that the drivers do out there, and even me here on the podcast, to have a mind for safety first. We want everybody to get home safe. So great work with that. We'll definitely be bringing it up in the future. But now, as promised, we've got to get to one of my favorite segments, and still always, since the very first time we did it, one of my favorite segments. It's time to lay down the law with Eve.
Perfect.
What have you got for me today?
So today I want to talk about a really fun topic of taxes. We are at the beginning of the year, right? So we just ended 2023. So those W-2s are going to get sent out in January. If you have our Paychecks app and you're able to log into that, you will be able to see those W-2s on there much earlier than you'll get them in the mail. So if you need help logging into that, give us a call me, call Connie. We'll help you get set up and get logged in so you can see those. But the other part of that is we do offer a per diem program, and hopefully everybody knows about our per diem program, but I kind of want to go over it as a refresher for the new year, because this is the time where you could sign up for it or you could drop it if you don't want it for 2024. So the per diem, it is a set amount of money that we take, and there's no taxes on that money. The way that we do it here at H&M is we take 11 cents of every mile, we take it out, we figure your taxes, and then we add it back in. You're not making an additional 11 cents or anything. It's just 11 cents per mile that you're not taxed on. So there are benefits to that, in that you're paying less taxes, you have less taxable income, lower tax brackets sometimes, things like that. Those are all benefits of it, they're advantages. But there are some disadvantages too, in that you're paying in less in Social Security. So when you're ready to draw that out, there will be less, right? You haven't paid as much in. Your gross wages are less when they're listed on your pay stubs and things. So that also can affect your buying power. It can affect what banks are seeing as far as, do you qualify for loans and things like that, because your income is listed as lower than it actually is due to that pre-tax. So this is a good time to think about that, think about your taxes. And also, if you have an address change, make sure you call us so we make sure that W-2 is getting sent to the right place.
Very important stuff there. When tax season rolls around, it's always, I feel like it's kind of my rubber stamp as an adult that I've done my taxes every year since I was legally, required to. But I do get a little bit more angry about it every single year, Eve, just because it is what it is, and we all have to do it. I feel like once every 5 or 10 years, they should let us take that tax bill and just gamble it on a football game or something like that. At least let me see if that money's actually working for me, because I'm not always convinced that when I send it to Uncle Sam that it's actually working for me. But I'm a very selfish person. You know that. You've been here long enough to know that. So And also, I've talked about it on this podcast before. I like to gamble. So, let it ride.
Well, I mentioned that I had 8 kids, right? But they keep growing up and moving out, and now I have less deductions. So Uncle Sam thinks they need more of my money. So that's not exactly fair either.
Mama's little tax breaks.
Dang it. I mean, they still cost me. So
Right. That's a great point. Well, thank you so much for laying down the law here. Like we said, important stuff on your taxes there. Make sure to get in touch with Eve or Connie if you need some help with that, because we don't want anybody to miss out on per diem if it's something they want, or to keep doing it if it's something they don't want. So, and obviously getting your W-2 to the correct house. You don't really want that to show up at your neighbors. It's just information I don't want them to have. My neighbor Danny's a great guy, but he doesn't need to know how much I make.
good point.
So, Eve, being the new year, I did get a little bit of a late start on this year, but I wanted to talk to you about some New Year's resolutions. Are you a big New Year's resolution person?
Yeah, I actually am. I usually try to set, it's not really necessarily a resolution with me, but more as a goal, right? So
Okay.
like I have short-term goals, I have long-term goals. So every year, I kind of reevaluate that, like what is my goal for the year, and set something.
And so are you willing to share what you set this year, or is it something you like to keep to yourself?
No, I can tell you. So first of all, work related, the safety campaign and keeping that going. That's my New Year's resolution work wise, right? I want to make sure that we're influencing the safety culture here at H&M. So that was one. The second one is more kind of a personal, and that is just to cut my screen time down. So I tend to sit and scroll Facebook a little bit more than I probably should. So I'm really going to work on cutting that down. And then also I want to read 1 book a month for the entire year.
Wow.
So I love to read, and I, as my kids have, I've had all these kids and I'm so busy at home and all of that, I've kind of gotten away from it. So kind of getting back to something that I really like to do and I find relaxing, and replace that with the screen time.
That's a really good idea. Now, be honest with me here. Are we catching up on the Harry Potter novels? Are you like a true crime? Are you a fiction, nonfiction, maybe some, romantic comedy type novels? What are you reading?
I like a mixture of everything. So I'm almost like very eclectic in that. I love some crime and some drama, and sometimes some cheesy romance, and then sometimes some self-help and whatever I happen to be interested in. I just like to mix it up. And so I need to keep my interest. So it just depends.
My new favorite thing is to hear from the other room when my wife is listening to an audiobook and it's like a cheesy romance novel, because you'd swear to God she's watching Days of Our Lives in there. And then sometimes it's dramatically acted rather than just read by a narrator. So they're making grunts and they're doing all sorts of stuff, Eve. And it's like, what are you listening to in there? And then other times they'll be like, hey, can I come listen for just a second? So interesting stuff there in the romantic novel section with audiobooks, just for those of you that are wondering. It's the thing that happened in my life. Yeah, it's good to know.
That is good to know.
And well, I've got some resolutions here. I came up with quite a few because I have trouble committing to them. And so I figured maybe if I took you through a list of some of the things that I'm considering, maybe you could help me, prioritize these a little bit.
I'm here for you, Marcus.
I knew you were. The first one, I want to spend 1 full day communicating solely through the use of interpretive dance. No words. It's going to be really hard for me, Eve, but just nothing.
That'll be an interesting podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to have to do it on a non-recording day. Otherwise, who knows if I'll be your podcast host moving forward. But I feel like the success of this one hinges on whether or not I'm still married at the end of that day.
And also I haven't seen you dance.
It's bad. It's real bad.
So, okay. Well, yeah, definitely don't make that a recording day.
Okay.
And you know what, though? I feel like you not talking might be a little refreshing change for the wife. So it may improve things for you.
Yeah, it's not the not talking part that I'm worried about. It's her having to watch me dance to try to get what I want. That's the worst part.
Right.
I've been a drummer since I was 13, Eve, and I'm the only guy with rhythm that can't cut a rug on the dance floor. I'll tell you that right now. It's embarrassing. My second one here, I would like to spend at least 80 hours practicing affirmations with my corgis. Lieutenant Dan's confidence is waning, and Detective Elliot Stabler feels like he hasn't solved enough crimes of a sensitive nature this year. Shout out. So I'm going to just spend at least 2 full work weeks just, affirming the Corgi's confidence, because I feel like I haven't done a good job of that the last couple of years.
Right. I mean, as long as you're petting them and all that at the same time, I feel like that's fine. I was a little worried at the beginning of this where it was going, because I thought you were wanting the Corgis to give you affirmations. And I was wondering how that was going to work. So the fact that you're giving them, that makes sense. And I'm a little more at ease with it. So yeah, we're all about the puppy love here. So that's a good one. I think you should do that.
Okay. And Eve, don't worry. I've had many a moments up here cackling to myself in my office too. And just that nobody walks by mine, so nobody gets to see those moments. But it wouldn't surprise me if I try to get the Corgis to give me some affirmations as well. I've been known to do stranger things with my dogs. So number 3
what?
is, not Eve. Come on. Keep your mind out of the gutter.
You said it. You said it.
Don't worry. I'll take your mind to places here with some of these next ones. All right. Don't worry about that at all. This one is just for me. Nobody else. It's just something. I want to leave a pair of dirty underwear hidden in every house I stay in this year.
Gross.
Everyone. And I'm
not inviting you over.
It is gross. You're right. But it's more of like, can you get away with it? Because my goal would be all my friends and family that happen to welcome me into their home, they never find it. Maybe like 5-10 years down the road, they find it. I just want to know if I can get away with it. I don't take many risks in life, Eve. And I feel like this is one that even if I failed, it's not going to really do much. I can just be like, oh, I'm sorry that I left that in your cookie jar. I must have misplaced it when I was headed to the to the hamper. I don't know. Like I said, I just want to see if I can get away with it.
Marcus, the fact that you want to leave your underwear in the cookie jar, there are so many things wrong with that. Also, I would think, you don't want to leave the ones with the holes in them and the skid marks that we've talked about before and things too. So maybe not that one. And also I'm never going to invite you to my house.
I can't. That's very understandable, but I can't leave my new underwear, Eve. I just got those 4 years ago.
Well,
so I have to leave the old ones. Okay.
You have to leave the ones with the skid marks. Okay.
Here's a good one, and maybe another one just for me. I would like to start performing stand-up comedy, but exclusively at strip clubs, because I'm sick of paying the cover. I want to go see Precious, and I don't want to have to pay to get in there to see her. So I figure if I start a stand-up comedy tour of all of the strip clubs in the area, 2 birds, 1 stone.
I don't know a lot about strip clubs, but I don't know that they have a comedy club in them. The fact that people would be sitting around just laughing, I don't feel like that's the vibe they're going for.
You don't think it would be fun to just roast strippers? I mean, I think I would have a great time, but maybe that's just me. I don't know. I don't know if it would be for everybody.
Yeah, I don't think that they would maybe enjoy that. It just doesn't seem like the vibe they're going for there.
I would like to finally try one of these jugs of free yellow Gatorade I see sitting along the side of the road. Is there? Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you seen these?
I've seen them. I've seen them at every truck stop. They're there. And then we wonder why people have to pay to park. They have to pay somebody to go clean up those nasty yellow Gatorade bottles. That's why.
All jokes aside, I am amazed at how many I see on the side of the freeway.
And
I'm also amazed at the agility and the, focus that it must take to do that while driving. It's something I've never been able to. I haven't even been able to convince my wife to let me try on a road trip. So maybe one day.
Smart cookie. She's a smart lady.
Which is what concerns me because she lives with me. And when is it that she's going to figure it out, Eve? That's the only question left here. Finally, before I let you go, this one is kind of a work one. And since I'm telling you, it's going to be very hard for this to get through review, but I would like to plagiarize an entire podcast episode without getting caught like I did last time. And I probably should have gone with something more subtle than the Da Vinci Code because it really didn't track. But I feel like everybody deserves a week off here and there. And if I could just, read a few passages from Mark Twain, maybe I could get away with it.
I don't think that's going to work. But you can try it. How do you feel about, unemployment in 2024?
Not good. I'll be honest with you.
All right, let's just skip that one then. Just skip that one.
Eve, I always have such a great time when you come on here with me. I'm going to let you get back to it. I know you're busy. Thank you so much for your time today, and we'll get you back on here in the future, okay?
Absolutely. It's always fun. Stay fresh, cheese bag.
That's going to put a bow on this episode of the H&M Trucking Podcast. Thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate everybody that tunes in each week. Click that subscribe button. It helps us out more than you know. And don't forget to check us out on YouTube. The team behind the scenes here at the podcast, always doing great things on our YouTube channel over there at H&M Trucking. So make sure to check that out. And as I said, click the subscribe button wherever you see it. Because it really does help us out. Also, you can interact with me on the various social medias. I'm in the H&M Trucking Friends and Family page. I'm also on H&M's Standard page. And anytime you see a podcast advertisement on Facebook when we're advertising a new episode, you see that goofy picture of me, riding a truck or wearing a top hat, whatever they like to do with me on the screen. And trust me, it's terrifying because they can do absolutely anything. Our designers are damn good at their jobs. But anytime you see one of those advertisements, getting back to it, all you have to do is leave a comment in the comment section. I will definitely see it. If you're interested in being a driver ambassador like Lisa Bisese, who joined us today, make sure to let Sherry Vogler know, or Eve Essary. Anybody really will get you in touch with me, but we'll get you on that list because our driver ambassadors here at H&M for the H&M Trucking Podcast are awesome. We've already talked to quite a few of them. Tom Woods, Zach Beckman, those guys are both hooking us up with their ambassadorship. So great thanks to everybody that contributes to this program. It's a lot of me talking, obviously, but there are a ton of people behind the scenes. We thanked a lot of them last week. Also, all the good people at H&M Trucking that donate their time to this podcast to make it as good as it is. Thanks to Eve Essary for coming on the show today. Congratulations to all those million-mile drivers. That's such a crazy achievement. Hats off to you guys. Don't forget about the safety campaign. That's coming up too, and I'm sure Eve will have all the details as they unfold for you there. And, working on those New Year's resolutions, man. I don't think that Gatorade one is as bad as Eve made it sound. And I'm really looking forward to getting away with plagiarizing an entire podcast. I will be better about it than I was last time. Didn't even get through the first phase of review. It was pretty pathetic, if you want my honest opinion. I gotta go. We're out of time here. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in once again. And as always, for the new year, 2024, stay fresh, cheese bags.
Thank you for listening to the H&M Trucking Podcast. Please leave a review, subscribe, and connect with Marcus over at the H&M Trucking social media channels. And if you're considering a job at H&M, find us at hmtrucking.com. Until next time, stay safe and ahead of the curve drivers.